We're back. Happy New Year, everyone. It's time for a new beginning. It's time for 2021. I'm sorry that we've taken a couple weeks off from the children's sermon. Hopefully you had a lovely Christmas and holiday break, but we're going to get back to it. These will be coming out every week like they have been all COVID long. Today's story is one we haven't read yet, and it's called A New Beginning. How about that? It's almost like I planned it. It's about everyone's favorite story, Noah and the Ark. But there's actually, as we'll hear, a lot more to the story than just animals 2x2 going onto a big boat. There's a lot of promise in this story. Let's get right to it. Here we go from the Jesus Storybook Bible. Everyone's favorite, A New Beginning, the story of Noah and the Ark. A new beginning. Time passed, and many people filled the earth. Everyone everywhere had forgotten about God and were only doing bad things all the time. God's heart was filled with pain when he saw what had happened to the world he loved. Everywhere was disease and death and destruction, all the things God hates most. Now, Noah was God's friend, which was odd in those days because no one else was. Noah listened to God. Noah talked to God. He just loved being with God, like you do with your best friend. Noah, God said, things have gone wrong. People have filled my world with hate instead of love. They are destroying themselves and each other and my world. I must stop them. First, we'll build an ark. Do you know how to build an ark? Neither did Noah. Luckily, God knew, and he would show him. A storm is coming, God told Noah, but I will rescue you. I promise. I'll send the animals to you, ones that creep and crawl and slither and slime and gallop and hop and bound and climb. And don't forget to pack everyone's food. The storm was going to wash away all the hate and sadness and everything that had gone wrong and make the world clean again. God had thought up a way to keep Noah safe, but Noah would have to trust God and do exactly what God told him. So Noah built an ark, short for very large boat. Noah's neighbors came out to watch and point and laugh because they didn't believe Noah about the boat or the storm or needing to be rescued. And Noah must have looked rather silly. His boat was in the desert. The desert was nowhere near the sea, and there wasn't even a cloud in the sky. Why would anyone need an umbrella, let alone a boat? But Noah didn't mind so much what other people thought. He minded what God thought. So he just did what God told him to do. When the ark was ready, God said, "All aboard!" And Noah's family and all the animals climbed inside. Then God shut the door. And it started raining. For minutes that joined up into hours, that joined up into days, that joined up into weeks and weeks, and the rain joined up into puddles, that joined up into rivers, that joined up into lakes, that joined up into a flood that covered the whole world. Their boat, that had once seemed so big, suddenly seemed very small. But in the middle of the huge storm and the crashing waves and all the thunder and lightning all through it, God was with them. And God kept them safe for 40 long days and 40 long nights. Finally, the rain stopped. The sun came out and Noah threw open all the windows. Hooray! Everyone shouted. Noah sent his dove out to explore, and it wasn't long before she brought him back a fresh olive leaf. Everyone knew exactly what that meant. She had found a tree and land. The water was going down. At last, the boat landed quite suddenly on top of a great mountain. As soon as it was safe, God said, "Out you come," and so they did, everyone skipping and dancing onto the dry land. The first thing Noah did was to thank God for rescuing them, just as he had promised. And the first thing God did was make another promise. I won't ever destroy the world again. And like a warrior who puts away his bow and arrow at the end of a great battle, God said, "See, I have hung up my bow in the clouds." And there in the clouds, just where the storm meets the sun, was a beautiful bow made of light. It was a new beginning in God's world. It wasn't long before everything went wrong again, but God wasn't surprised. God knew this would happen. That's why before the beginning of time, God had another plan. a better plan. A plan not to destroy the world, but to rescue it. A plan to one day send his own son, the rescuer. God's strong anger against hate and sadness and death would come down once more, but not on his people or his world. No, God's war bow was not pointing down at his people. It was pointing up into the heart of heaven. All right, check it out. I'm thinking a lot about promises this week. We heard it in the story, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. But we make a lot of promises, don't we? Check it out. This is my wedding ring. I made a promise to my wife 11 years ago that I would love her forever in sickness and in health. Oh, but there's other kinds of promises too. Check it out. This is a credit card. Don't play with this at home, kids. I made a promise to this company that if they lent me some money, I would pay it back. Lots of fun there. Check it out. This is my license. I made a lot of promises. I had to sign some contracts when I got my license here that said I would follow the rules of the road when I'm driving. Oh my gosh, there's more. Check it out. This is the contract that I signed when I bought my house. And I promised that I would pay back all the money that they were going to loan me so that I could buy the house. Okay, that's pretty cool. Oh gosh. Hey, this is the bulletin from my ordination. The ordination is like when the pastor officially becomes a pastor. And I made all sorts of promises that day that I would preach about the Word of God, that I would make children's sermons. Maybe not exactly that, but you get the idea, right? And then this is the bulletin from my installation when I became the pastor here at Bethany about a year ago. And I made promises that day that I'd be a faithful pastor in my calling here at Bethany. There's just promises all over the place. We make promises all the time. And as we're going to talk about, what's most important is the promises that God makes to us. Let's hear about that. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone. Wasn't it good to hear a story from the Jesus Storybook Bible again? It's been too long. But I love the way that this focuses on the idea of promise. And really, that's so important to the story of Noah and the ark. Yes, it's cool that there were animals 2 by 2 that got on this big boat that he built. All of that captures our imagination. But what the story's really about is God making that promise in the end. God keeping his promise to Noah to protect his family through the flood, and then God putting the rainbow in the sky, a sign and a promise that God would never destroy the world again. The truth is, God makes promises to us all the time. And so much what we do in church on Sunday morning is about remembering those promises that God has made. And Jesus is, of course, the biggest promise of all. Right? God promises to be with us. God promises to take away our sin. God promises to give us a new beginning, just like God did for Noah. And so I want you to be thinking about promises this week. We're always looking for a way to put our faith into practice, so that's our challenge, our homework assignment, if you will. What sort of promises can you find that God has made to us? Look through the Bible, think through the church service, talk with your parents about it. Just make a list of promises that God has made to you. I think you'll find it to be a really encouraging activity to realize that God not only makes all these promises to us, but of course, God keeps his promises. I'm Pastor Nate. This has been the Children's Sermon. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.